Hey guys, today we are going to look at OpenAI API and how to get started with integrating OpenAI into your custom applications. So, okay. So OpenAI has a development environment, and as you can see here, there is a quick start tutorial, some prompt examples, gives you information about the different models. So GPT-4, GPT-4 Turbo, and then 3.5 Turbo. So the latest and current version is GPT-4o. Previous to that was GPT-4 Turbo, and then the first and flagship model, I think, was the 3.5 Turbo. So just to give you an example of what ChatGPT is on the front end. So ChatGPT is different to the OpenAI API. The OpenAI API is the back end and the engine and the brain behind ChatGPT. So ChatGPT is an application built on top of the API. So if you build an application that uses the API, then it's essentially on the same level as ChatGPT. So ChatGPT interacts with the OpenAI models via the API, and it's exactly the same concept for anything that you would build. So if you're not familiar with ChatGPT, I'll just do a very sort of quick run through. So ChatGPT is an interface on the front end for an artificial intelligence model. And it's a general model, so you can basically enter in anything you want and it will be able to give you information, generate content, etc. So you can see here when you land on the initial screen, it's got some options for you already. So just to get started and just to start testing it out, write a story in my favorite genre, quiz me on ancient civilizations, plan a relaxing day, create a workout plan. So this one is an engaging conversational option, and then you create a workout plan is just generating a workout plan. So let's click on that. And there it is. So one thing to note is that, well, in my experience, ChatGPT has been 80 to 90% reliable. And what I mean in terms of reliability is either content or what it's the factual information that it's giving is not necessarily 100% correct. Or, okay, apologies, we've got a student entering here. Either it's not 100% correct, or the content can be improved, right? So if this is a really good starting point, but what might be a good option is to get feedback and do a bit of your own research, and have a basic understanding of exercise and exercise science before you commit to something that ChatGPT has generated. But generally, it's really good. I mean, if I look at what it's giving here, there we go. We got another student. Sorry. So this is actually well, it's not a live webinar, but it's not posted live on YouTube, but it is recorded live, and we've got our Mobili students logging in to attend live and engage and ask questions if they want to. So yeah, as I was saying, it's pretty good. And you can actually play around with the different models. But so I've got a premium version of ChatGPT here. And with that gives me the latest model, which is 4.0. And then ChatGPT 4, I think, is included in the free version as well. So you've got access to the free version. All right, so yeah, so that's ChatGPT in a nutshell. So what they've created here is a whole full-on interface. It's really user-friendly. It's on a website and a web page. I'm going to be showing you an example of connecting to the API using Python. And so we're not going to build a full-on front-end web application, but rather look at the back end and connecting to OpenAI via command line and via Python. Okay. So the best way to get started is to head over to OpenAI's API. And what you need to do firstly is just to create an account. So type in API, and that should take us directly. Okay, so we've got OpenAI API, and click on sign up. And so obviously you can see this is specifically for developers. So okay, so I already have an account, but that is the way you would do it. So you can either create an account with an email address and then log in, or you can connect with any other single sign-on that you specifically have. But once you've logged in, then you can go to the documentation over here, and get information on what you can do. So from here, the getting started. So let's say dashboard, getting started overview. There we go. Okay, quick start. So on your left-hand side, you've got your main menu, and then skip overview, introduction, then go to quick start. So quick start gives you a breakdown of the steps for setting up your local development environment. So the very first thing to do is to sign up for your account and then get an API key. And the way we do that once you've logged in is to go to your dashboard. Let's open that up in a new tab, and go to API keys. So I've got 2 API keys that I've created, and then all you need to do is just click on create new secret key. You can label it if you want, it's optional, and then create secret key. Okay, so this is where things might get a little bit tricky and challenging. Once you've got the hang of it, it's not that difficult to work with these kinds of things, but just keep pushing through. It will click if you struggle to get this right, but yeah, just keep pushing through, and you will get it. So the OpenAI provides a simple interface for developers to create an intelligence layer in their application. So you can use any web application that you have. I mean, it could be a WordPress website, it could be a static site, it could be a React site, and you can add conversational aspects to your web application, maybe like a chatbot, or for example, you could guide people through a knowledge base application that you have. So maybe they are wanting to get specific information about your specific products and service, or your dedicated knowledge base, and this is something that you could use to set that up. Okay. All right, so the first step is the account setup. So create your OpenAI account or sign in, and then go to the API key page, which is what we just looked at, and then create your new key. Okay, so the quick start instruction does give options via, okay, so great. So you can do it using the command line, using curl or Python or Node.js. So Node.js gives the ability to run JavaScript on a server, as opposed to just in the browser. But because this is data science related, we're sticking to Python because that's the language that we use mostly with data science. And it is a popular language, and it's commonly used for data applications, web development, and many other programming tasks due to its ease of use. I can certainly confirm that Python is actually a really good language in terms of getting to learn programming. It's a good first language as well. So yeah, all right. So OpenAI provides a custom Python library, which makes working with API simple and efficient. So if you're not familiar with the concept of libraries, so you have a core Python functionality, which serves your basic purposes. And then if you want to get extra functionality or add features to your application that are not in the core, then you would install libraries. So of course, they wouldn't ship the standard Python core features with OpenAI, because that's something that's not everybody is building. Every Python application is going to be using OpenAI's API. So that is the reason for installing that separately. Okay. So setting up Python, I'm going to skip this step because it's not really related to what we're talking about, but definitely you need to install Python, and there's plenty of documentation on the web for installing Python on your environment, on your computer. Then the next step is setting up a virtual environment, and that definitely is something that we want to do. So I'm just going to bring my code editor into view here. Okay, so just so we've got things side by side, I am going to delete. I'm going to delete my environments. Okay, I'm just deleting my virtual environment so that we can start from scratch, and you can see how, what to expect when you go through these steps. And okay, cool. So my virtual environment is off, and you can see it's an empty application. By the way, this is Visual Studio Code. So at the moment, this is what I use generally for all my programming and developments. Okay, so the first step is to create our virtual environment, and the code or command line for that is Python 3-m venv and then .env. That will create my virtual environment. And what it's doing, essentially, it's creating a .env directory or virtual environment directory as a hidden directory in my application. And this is where it will store all of the libraries that I add to my application. So one more thing we need to do in order to use your virtual environment is we just need to activate it. So in order to activate it, we use the command line command source, and then we put in the path to the activate mini program inside our virtual environment. So .env /bin/activate. All right, so then we can see on the left here, .env has been activated. All right, so the first thing that we actually need to do is to install the OpenAI Python library. And as we know, for Python, to install any packages is pip install, and then in this case, with your -- upgrade OpenAI. The upgrade is, I'm assuming, just meaning that get the latest version. Okay, pip install. Okay, so that is OpenAI installed in this virtual environment. Now the next step, okay, so coming back to putting in your key, this is something that I have already set up on my environment. By the way, you can see I'm in a Linux environment. It doesn't have a Linux option. So for the Linux option, just use the Mac OS. It's the same process. So what you will do is to open up, for me, mine is so just find out whatever your bash profile file is. And the way you can do that, let me just open up my other terminal. All right, so you can do an ls-la. So list all directories and list hidden folders and files. Okay, so it's going to be something bash related. So for mine's bash rc, but yours might be something along the lines of bash profile or ZS HRC, depending on how you set yours up. I think ZS HRC is specifically for Mac. But if you need to just do a bit of research, so it's in terms of it's the command line configuration file. So just dig around a little bit and you'll be able to find that. So what we're going to do with that configuration file is, because every time you create a new terminal session, and when I say create a new terminal session, what I mean is that every time you open up a new terminal, it creates a new session. You want that OpenAI, your key, to load in your computer general environment so that you don't have to every time put the key manually into your code to specify that key. And I'm going to show you in the code next is it just points to the operating system and find that environment variable, and it uses that environment variable to insert your API key. So the way you can do it, and this is just a once off, is you type in the command line, literally export OpenAI key, OpenAI API key. So you're setting this environment variable, and you're setting it to this value. Obviously, this here is a placeholder. So what you would do in order to get your environment key is to go to your API keys, and then from when you created your new secret key, and I'm just going to put test and then create secret key. And then there it is. So you would literally copy that and paste it in there. Copy and paste, and just make sure that it's in between your little apostrophes here. So I am immediately going to delete this API key, but it's just for demonstration purposes. Once you press enter, it will mean that this API key is loaded into your environment. So what happens then? Yes, okay, so it will be loaded into your environment. So let me just delete all of that so we can move forward. Okay, done. And then I'm just going to delete that key. All right, great. Okay, next step. So now we've got your key installed in your operating system environment. Once you've done that, you need to load the updated profile. So you can type in their source. You'll remember when we created the virtual environment or activated it, I also use the same keyword or command source. So support source just means run, essentially. So run this file, run this application. So then once all this is done, then you should be able to type in echo and then the variable OpenAI key, and then it will output that to your environment. I'm not going to do it here, obviously, because then it's going to show my key, but just follow these steps. They're pretty self-explanatory, and yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Okay. So if you're running on Windows, obviously it's different for Windows, but just choose the one relevant to your operating system. Okay, so step 2, set up your API key. I'm confident we have done that. Now we get to the fun part, which is making an API request. So let's go ahead and create, okay, I've already got an app.py. So my main okay, but that's not for this application. Maybe no, I just want to make sure that I am in the correct place. So sometimes when I'm working with multiple applications in Visual Studio Code, these can get mixed up the paths. Sometimes I've got one project here, but I've got another project open up in the command line here. So just make sure. It can happen when you're working on multiple projects. So let me just confirm. that I am actually working in the correct place. Okay, it looks good. All right, so let's add an app.py. So app.py is just a standard naming convention for your main application file in Python. And if we do an ls again, okay, great. So we can see that it's added and I am in the correct project here. All right. So let's go back to the next step of putting the code in. Okay. So here's an example of an application. So as you can see, like it's 12 lines with spaces to make a request. It's really straightforward, and that's the beauty and benefits of using a really well-built and maintained library. All the functionality is included in here in this line. And then initiating a new AI client is that line there, and then you configure the AI client, and then you can use it. So let's start off with, actually, let me just copy and paste to save time here. Okay, S. All right, now let's run our application. So to run the application is Python 3 app.py. And as you can see, it has worked. Okay, so let's run through quickly what the requests essentially was. Okay, so what we've done here is we've created a new blank OpenAI clients. Okay, and then what we've done is we've configured this client to use the model, which is GPT 3.5 Turbo. So remembering that, just to show you, go back. So we've got the different choices of models. So we've got 4, 3.5, 4.0. And in the chat playground, this is also a good way to play around with the different models. So here are all the models. Okay, there's quite a few more, but the main general AI models are here. So essentially, what we're saying here, if I can use it in terms of a more visual aspect, and this is what the playground is for, by the way. The playground is for you to test all your project's idea before you put it into code. So what we've got is a match for, okay, so here's system, and we've got our first piece of data there is role system. So what this means is this is what we're instructing. We're giving the model instructions, right? So how to behave and what to do. So our instruction to this model when we're setting it up essentially is to say, you are a poetic assistant skilled in explaining complex programming concepts with creative flair. Okay. Yeah. All right. So then this is what we've pre-instructed this AI model to do. Then in the real world, what we would then is create a chat interface of our own where we can get an input from a user. So the user wouldn't see this. This is something that we've pre-programmed into our model. And then the user would come in and they would see something like this. That's a web interface that we would have to build. But so here we could say compose a poem, just to use what the example is here. Compose a poem that explains the concept of recursion in programming. So this is now some user coming and using our model API. And run it. Okay, and that's what it's outputted, all right? So this is the system instruction, this is the user input, and this is what our assistant has outputted. And if you look at, okay, it looks very codey, but it's essentially done something very similar. So in the realm of code where logic reigns, a mystical process with looping chains, etc., etc. It's quite a cool poem, actually, and it's creative. So what we've got here is in the realm of code where patterns dance, there's a technique that takes a chance. So you see that it's actually outputted what we've asked for. That's the string that's come out of it. And then it's obviously every time it's different. It's not going to give us exactly the same answer every time. And that's what we want, because we don't want a hard-coded application here. We want an application that can think for itself and be creative and give us variety and variance. So yeah, all right. So that's the first one. So just to go back here, this is what we are doing. We're feeding it message templates or examples of how we want it to behave. So you could actually put as many as you want here, because what it does is it takes a look at this to see the pattern and what you're looking for and to understand what it is that you need. And then it will then, it's called auto completion. So just as when you're texting, is that you start typing and then it sort of picks up what you're typing and it guesses and it predicts what the completion should be on that. Okay. All right, so let's look at another example that we can play with. Okay. Docs. Okay, here's an interesting one. I guess this is an educational application. So just to take one step back, what I've done here is I've just gone to within the docs, I've gone to prompt examples, and then this is quite cool because it gives you an idea of a lot of the different applications that you could use it for. And then what it does as well is it gives you an example of the prompts, and then it gives you the example of the response, and it gives you the code in order to run that functionality. So let's just go back to the grammar correction. So this is very as simple as, okay, by the way, we are using Python, as I said, but you can get the code in whatever language it is that you are using. JSON, what would that be? Okay, interesting. All right. So let's copy that. And I'm going to make a new file here for grammar.py, and then paste it in. That's interesting, because I actually do have a Python formatter. Okay. Well, anyway, I'm not sure what the story is there, but okay, let's go. So I did, like, generally with your applications, you will have a main application file, and it will be called app.py. But because I'm doing a demo and we're doing a few different examples of different things, that's why I'm just putting another Python file in here and just calling it something unique. So the way we would run that then is Python 3. So Python 3 or Python or whatever your operating system keyword is set at. And let's call it grammar. Oh, interesting. Oh, apologies. I need to print that out. That's what happened there. Will be response. I'm assuming that is the correct, the same format. Okay, so it has actually been successful. So what we wanted it to do is to, what we wanted it to do is to take the example that's, or to take the text that the user has entered. So this might be someone who, it's English is not their first language, but I mean, I guess this could be in any language, teaching something, someone correct grammar. So what the user enters in is a sentence, and ideally a sentence which is where the grammar is incorrect. So you can see Shino went to market, which is not correct. And then what this has done is it's outputted the correct grammar. She did not go to the market, if you can see that. So yeah, maybe this is a bit small on the screen, but okay, so that was the response. She did not go to the markets. Okay, so that's a very simple grammar correction exercise. Then, all right. Okay, let's look at this one. This is interesting. So I guess this is a cool one for data science in terms of data cleaning and sanitizing, I'm expecting. And okay, so you will be provided with unstructured data, and your task is to pass it into a CSV format, right? So, and then this is what the user enters, and then this is what the response is. So I'm guessing, well, I'm not going to guess. So there are many fruits that are found. Yeah, let's go below. Okay, let's try this out. Okay, so the model instruction, the pre-programming is you will be provided with unstructured data, and your task is to pass it into CSV format. All right, so let's run this. Okay, I'm just leaving it as grammar. Okay, that's interesting. I'm not 100%, I'm not 100% sure exactly how it's organizing things, but it's taking the objects, and as you can see, it's put it into, oh, fruit color flavor. Okay, great. Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. So these are the headings for the column. So what is the fruit? What is the color? What is the flavor? So it's exported this into a CSV format. So let's quickly convert this to a CSV file so that we can open it in Excel. Okay, so let's do a new one here. Convert this to Excel. And so what you can do with ChatGPT is you can get it to give you a downloadable file. So that's what I'm going to instruct it with next. So you've got to be quite specific as to what you want. All right, and there it is. That's our Excel file. Let me just close this. And that's the thing, by the way, with working with Python applications, is because you're receiving essentially data, response data, you will need to add some sort of feature in Python to export that data to something usable. So either you can create a Python backend that create your own Python API backend, where a front-end React application or any type of web front-end application can access the data and then present it like a web interface. Or I've done it manually, but what we could do is to add a feature inside our Python application that takes that data and exports it directly creates an Excel file programmatically, but I've just done it manually. So it's a bit of a silly example, but it illustrates another application for sorting. So this example itself is silly. So we've gotten from the user inputs here, we've gotten the results is our Excel sheet. So the content is a bit silly, but the application is very powerful. So you can see here that this is literally unstructured data. This is just a description. It's in paragraph form. It's in normal language, normal English. And what we've gotten from this is, firstly, it's our AI model has made sense of what this is. It understands what a fruit is, what a color is, what a flavor is. And from in those categories, it can look, and from the context, looking at ridiculous and neo-schizoid, it can see that it's a thing, right? Even though it's a completely imaginary, made-up thing. And it can do all of that and then take that and separate and categorize the data that it's finding in this free-form sentence, and then creating a CSV format for us to be able to use. So this is really great for organizing and summarizing, essentially. So yeah. So what I would recommend from here is really, actually, that is a good place to start, is to go and play around in the playground, have a look at these different options. Yeah, and then get started. And then really it's your imagination is your only limit. There's really so much that you can do. I would recommend working with the ChatGPT interface itself and really seeing, pushing it to the extent of what it can do there. Then going into the playground and testing out your application first there, like we showed you before. So in the playground here with your different settings and different AI models, and then go into code and build your application. So just get started. Just to recap, this is how simple it is. So go to the OpenAI API site, register, go to your dashboard to generate your key, and then follow these step-by-step instructions to set it up in your environment. And as you can see, like I said, this is literally the sum of the code that you need in order to create an AI-powered web application.